I wish that we were about to have a different conversation than the one that we're about to have. It has been a long time coming to say this, that Gregg Berhalter needs to be fired from the U.S. men's national team. And I've been someone that hasn't necessarily been an ally of Gregg Berhalter, but I will say I've tried to give him the benefit every single time that he's been the coach for this team. And that ended not just last night, but in various moments throughout the tournament where we got knocked out of the group stage with Bolivia and Panama as our first two matches. The loss to Panama itself is inexcusable. Even if we had advanced from this game against Uruguay into the quarterfinals for Copa America, it was not, this is not the time to think about what Gregg Berhalter can do for the U.S. men's national team and how he can bring us to the World Cup, because he's not the right coach to do that. Greg, thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for involving yourself so much in recruiting dual nationals. Thank you for getting us Yunus Musa, Serginho Dest, Folarin Balogun, and so many others. Thank you for that. Thank you for all the fish, but see ya. Because your ability to get results, to score goals, is abysmal. The way that this happened too is like, I feel gaslit from the federation and from the coach. And I felt this way for a long time, at least in terms of Gregg Berhalter, the person. And I try to remove that from Gregg Berhalter, the coach, because this is a coach who in 2018 stabilized a bit the U.S. men's national team, brought us into a new era with a very young team, and met expectations at the 2022 World Cup. I think what frustrates me the most is that we saw the best of a Gregg Berhalter team against the likes of England in that draw in the World Cup. And we also saw why he had reached his peak in the game against the Netherlands. That was a game where the U.S. probably wins it 3 out of 10 times, but with a different coach, we have a much better chance. The Netherlands game was kind of the first time where you see in a competitive tournament, the U.S. is outcoached completely. I mean, Louis van Gaal, even after the match, the Netherlands coach, talked about how they took advantage of a coaching mistake, basically how much we get our wings forward and how we don't replace those with defenders. I think ever since then, I mean, we can talk about the rehiring process. The initial hiring process itself was problematic, with Gregg Berhalter's brother being second in command in the U.S. Soccer Federation. The rehiring process, though, feels all the worse now that not only did it take a lot of time, we got to the same point that we would with Gregg Berhalter, and the coaches that were available, like Jesse Marsch, are now taking Canada into the knockout rounds of the Copa America after being in a group with Argentina. Canada, in a group with Argentina and 2 other CONMEBOL nations, has advanced to the Copa America quarterfinals, and the U.S. is out of the Copa America with Panama and Bolivia in their group. The loss to Panama should have never, ever happened. Ever. And I want to say this too. Yes, the referees are culpable. Tim Weah is culpable. The players are culpable. But in the end, that doesn't mean that Gregg Berhalter should not be the coach. All of those things can be true all at the same time. The loss to Panama, let's talk about this for a second, because your job as a coach is not just to make in-game decisions. It's not just to recruit players. It's not just to prepare them in practice for what the game is going to look like. To make comments after the game, I'm talking about Gregg Berhalter now, after the Panama game, to say essentially, we knew who this referee was and we played right into his hands. Your job as a manager and as a coach, if your team is prepared for that game, you know that the referee is very heavy-handed in giving out red cards. You know that the referee loses control of matches very easily, and you're about to play an opponent that can take advantage of that. And yet, 15, 20 minutes into the game, Timothy Weah raises his hand and hits a Panama player in the face. Yes, that is Timothy Weah's issue. That is his problem. That is his fault. But it is also Gregg Berhalter's fault. And to say after the game that you knew who this referee was, the team knew who he was, and you played right into his hands, well, sorry, because you expected that. You knew that you had to prepare for that, and yet your players still went out on the pitch and did some dumb ass shit 20 minutes into the game that cost us a tournament 2 years before the World Cup. That is on Timothy Weah, but that is also on Gregg Berhalter. And then in that game, to play a 5 in the back, obviously they were trying to draw the game, but to not go for the win there, it is mind-boggling to me. Panama is a good team, right? They're going to take advantage of whatever the game gives them or whatever the referee gives them. They took advantage of the situation, okay? And they won the game. Maybe it wasn't fair, but they did everything in their power to win the game. The U.S. did not. And a lot of that comes from the highest point of the team on the day, which is Gregg Berhalter. Okay, the Panama loss should have never happened, ever. With Timothy Weah's red card or without. Should never, ever happen. Then you go into the last game against Uruguay, needing... Well, hold on. First of all, because we could have won the game and kept everything in our own hands, right? If we win the game, most likely Panama wins by 1-2. If we beat Uruguay by 1, we're still through. We're still through to the knockout rounds on goal differential. We go into this game, and somehow, some way, we are tracking the Panama-Bolivia game. In the second half, with 65 minutes played, 25 minutes still to go, this was it for me, okay? Like, no matter if we advanced to the knockout rounds or not, this was the exact moment, the exact event that told me that Gregg Berhalter does not have a winner's mentality. He has a loser's mentality. And I really hate to say this because I am an eternal optimist, but frankly, the world is fucking shit right now, okay? We have a Supreme Court that just approved presidential immunity. Soccer is really the only other thing outside of my family that I have to look forward to, because the world isn't anything to look forward to right now. And yet I'm being gaslit by the Federation and by Gregg Berhalter that he's the right man for the job, that the team is okay, that it was the player's fault, that there's only so much a manager can do. With 65 minutes played and 25 minutes left, Gregg Berhalter is yelling at his team that the Panama-Bolivia game is 1-1. Uruguay is about to take a free kick, and Gregg Berhalter is on the sidelines telling his team that the game is 1-1, and if our result holds 0-0 against Uruguay, we will advance to the knockout rounds. On that same free kick, Uruguay scores a goal. It's a phantom goal. It's an offside goal. We'll talk about the referees in a second. But to do that, to depend on Bolivia to advance to the knockout rounds of Copa America is shameful. Shameful. How can we do that? How can we call ourselves a serious soccer nation when we own the result? We can beat Uruguay. We can advance on our own merits. And yet we not only depended, we were actively changing our team's dynamic and tactics on the field with 25 minutes left in the game against Uruguay because of Bolivia and Panama, even though we controlled our own destiny. That is a loser's mentality. Gregg Berhalter should not be the coach of the U.S. men's national team. Let's talk about the referee for a second. The referee for a critical match in the USA versus Uruguay, two teams in the top 15 nations in the world, in a competitive tournament, to have a referee with 7 international games under his belt is a ridiculous decision. And he proved everybody right, because being an objective and fair purveyor of the rules of the game was too much of a task. It was too daunting of a task for this referee. I want to talk about 3 moments that happened in this match with the referee. The first is the advantage, yellow card, quick restart, whatever that was. Chris Richards fouls a Uruguayan player. The referee blows the whistle, stops play, takes out his yellow, and gives it to Chris Richards. Uruguay, in the meantime, tries to play a quick restart. The ball is dead. Uruguay stops the ball, kicks it forward, and does a quick restart. The referee puts out his arms as if to play advantage. He's already called the play dead. I don't know how much else I can say that doesn't describe the absurdity of just watching this play happen. I can't say anything that will give you any additional value other than watching the play happen itself. The second one is the offside. And yes, it's not quite the referee, it's his team, but on the broadcast, they showed the offside call with the Uruguayan player's body in the red. They showed that. They took that away, redrew the lines that was not parallel to the 6-yard box or the 18-yard line, and showed the Uruguayan player onside. How can this stand? How can this stand? The frame that they used, by the way, to draw the line, the ball wasn't even hitting the Uruguayan player's head yet. The ball wasn't even being played as a pass. The Uruguayan player that scored the goal is even more offside if you use the right frame to draw the line. But the U.S. didn't create anything anyway. They had 0.49 expected goals. They had one big chance that they missed. It's not the referee's fault that we lost. I want to say that. The U.S. didn't create enough to be competitive in this game. And this was kind of the perfect match to showcase that Gregg Berhalter was the right coach, that this team could have a signature win. There's so much talk about that. This was kind of what he would want, right? Like, you beat Uruguay, a top team, probably the third or fourth favorite in this tournament, and you're through? That's great. Thank you. Panama game, yeah, inexcusable, but maybe you got something. Lose 1-0 to Uruguay, create one big chance, have 0.49 expected goals, depend on the Bolivia-Panama match to get you through the knockouts. Not good enough. Not anywhere close to good enough. No. The third thing that the ref did is after the game, final whistle's done, Christian Pulisic, the U.S. captain, goes up and tries to shake the hand of the referee team, and they don't shake the hand. Bad call, bad whistle, bad observation of the rules. Okay. Bad offside, onside call because your VAR room made a mistake or did something that was, borderline illegal or against the rules. Okay. But something you control, shaking the hand of the players that just played and respecting that, not shaking the hand, it's like there's so many things to be mad about in this game. And to know that the player that played their hardest, the player that was fighting the most for the U.S., goes to shake the hand of the referee, and the referee declines to shake the hand. It's disrespectful. It's shameful. It gives such a bad taste in my mouth of CONMEBOL and just soccer, corruption. Again, the world in general is all in this one moment of disrespect. I don't even know how I want to end this. Gregg Berhalter shouldn't be the coach. The performances weren't good enough. The referee was shameful. The team wasn't good enough. There were a few players that stood out to me. Christian Pulisic, Jedi, Gio Reyna, Fuller and Balogun. As soon as Fuller and Balogun was injured and off, all of our attacking steel went out the window. Some of those players deserve as much applause and credit as we can give them because they did. They did try. They fought their hardest. And at the end of the day, like Christian Pulisic said after the game, we lacked quality and we lacked an identity. And nothing's going to change with that if we stay with Gregg Berhalter. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed being cathartic with me in this video. And if you do want to hear my thoughts before I actually get them on video, I usually write what I'm feeling on my Substack. Make sure to check that out in the link below. I'll see you next time. I have no idea when that's going to be. It's damn well not going to be covering the U.S. men's national team unless Gregg Berhalter is out. Obviously, I'll still cover soccer, but as long as Gregg Berhalter is the coach of this team, I really can't see myself being excited enough to talk about this team. With that, I'll see you next time. Peace.